What's up YouTube, it's your boy Rhett back at it again with another video. Today I'm going to be reviewing the BLOCKCLOCKmini, which is created by a company called CoinKite. CoinKite are makers of the very popular Bitcoin hardware wallet, the Cold Card, but they also have a whole suite of really interesting Bitcoin related products like the BLOCKCLOCKmini. So if you watch the end of the video, first we're going to be going over how to buy the BLOCKCLOCKmini with Bitcoin for a 5% discount. I'll show you the unboxing of the BLOCKCLOCKmini. I'm going to be giving you guys some tips on how to set up the BLOCKCLOCKmini. It's not really as straightforward as I think it maybe should be. And then we'll talk about some of the other features and some of the kind of interesting creative things that you can actually do with a BLOCKCLOCKmini. I haven't really found many other videos on YouTube showing some of the little quirks and technical challenges that can come with setting up a BLOCKCLOCKmini. And I actually set it up for myself for the first time today. You can see here is the price. And I'm gonna leave it in the background of all of the videos from now on. So that'll be a cool Easter egg for those of you that have seen this video. If there are any parts of this video that you think might not be relevant for you, like maybe you don't care about getting the discount and you just wanna see how to set up the instructions, definitely check out the video timeline. There will be tags down there so you can skip around if there's some part that's not relevant to you and there is some other part that you really wanna see. Go down below, smash the like button for technology art, and let's level up your brain. So if you pay in Bitcoin, CoinKite will actually give you a 5% discount on the BLOCKCLOCKmini, which I think is a really great deal, especially considering the BLOCKCLOCKmini is relatively expensive. Of course, you probably don't want to spend any of your Bitcoin. You'd actually rather part with some of your fiat. I wish other companies would allow you to get discounts by paying in Bitcoin, because there is a really great strategy involving one of my favorite apps, Strike, that does allow you to just spend USD as Bitcoin. So first, what you're gonna wanna do is go download Strike in the iOS or Android store. You're gonna link your bank account to Strike or your debit card. You're gonna go back over to BLOCKCLOCK's website and you're gonna click Pay in Bitcoin. You'll put in their little code and then they'll generate a Bitcoin invoice for you. You'll deposit the USD amount of that invoice into your Strike account. You'll scan the QR code using Strike and voila, your USD just left your Strike wallet and was paid to CoinKite in the form of Bitcoin and got you a 5% discount. So the pros of doing it this way: you get 5% off. The cons of doing it this way, obviously, if you're not paying with a credit card, you don't get to delay the actual payment of your funds to the company. Over at CoinKite, all sales are final, so I don't think it really affects your ability to get a refund or anything like that. But you obviously do still get a receipt and you get that sweet, sweet 5% back. And if you trust CoinKite to make good products and have generally good customer service, I think all in all, it's worth it. Next, let's go through the unboxing and the setup.
All right, so unboxing here. BLOCKCLOCKmini, got the box, gonna cut this open, and here it is wrapped in some bubble wrap. Got the charger in here, bunch of bubble wrap, and there it is. It's gonna come out of the box, minded at least, with all these bees on it, and then here's the backside. You can see some of the components here. It really is like tech art. Cut the plastic off here. You can see the little quote there from Satoshi Nakamoto in the bottom right. It says, "If you do not believe it or don't get it, I don't have the time to try to convince you, sorry." A little off-putting for people that don't know what this is, maybe. I think the quote is a little edgy, but it is cool that it's written on there. And then to feed it power here, you're just gonna flip it over and there's gonna be a little micro USB input on the back. Micro USB, my least favorite kind of USB, but I get it in there. And there you go. This is what you should see the first time that it turns on. Nice little thank you message. And so now let's jump into how to actually set this up. All right, guys, Rhett from the future here. I've been using the BLOCKCLOCKmini for about a month now, and so I've gotten a lot better at setting up the BLOCKCLOCKmini and getting through and debugging some of the common issues that I've come across, at least, in just getting this to work, basically. So I'm gonna show you behind the scenes how to get this information onto the BLOCKCLOCKmini and what the whole setup process is gonna kind of be like for you. And so what you're seeing now on screen is gonna be the live view of the behind the scenes sort of control center of the BLOCKCLOCKmini, and then also live camera footage of the actual BLOCKCLOCKmini that you can see here. And so the first thing that you're gonna do is you're gonna see in here, there's 4 buttons on the side. The first one that you're gonna go into is gonna be network setup. And that's gonna give you this view here. You're gonna see step 1 and step 2. You're gonna see a Wi-Fi network to connect to. That's basically the Wi-Fi network that's hosted on the BLOCKCLOCKmini. So you're going to scan that QR code, connect to that Wi-Fi network, and then you're going to scan the second QR code and go to this URL once you're connected to this Wi-Fi network. And so once you connect to this Wi-Fi network on the screen here, you're gonna come to a screen that looks like this. Basically the Wi-Fi tab
tab of the Block Clock Mini. And the first time you do this, you're not going to have already connected to your local home Wi-Fi. And so you're gonna need to do that for the first time. So you'll find your local area network here, you'll pick it from the list, you'll enter your password, you'll hit connect, and then you're actually free to get off of the Block Clock Mini Wi-Fi, because if you're on the Block Clock Mini Wi-Fi, you're not gonna be able to go to like google.com, right? You're only gonna be able to go to whatever this second QR code address is basically. And so then once you've connected to your real Wi-Fi, you can connect to this third address here. And that's gonna bring you to the full experience basically, where you're gonna be able to set up whatever sort of queuing you want here to show whatever information you want to show on your block clock. So let's go back in the block clock so that we can just see. And so you're seeing here the market cap of Bitcoin. If I select memes Moscow time instead, you'll see that it updates. So basically here you have all of your controls, right? You can set the amount of time that you want between each update. So it'll go for me from mempool transactions to market sats per dollar to the date that the halving is expected. So this is actually a good example here of technical problems that you're going to get when you're dealing with this kind of stuff. I try to come into the screen as not often as possible and touch the controls for this kind of stuff because it does break like this pretty often. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna unplug it and I'm gonna plug it back in. So now we're back. I unplugged it and I plugged it back in 3 times and now it works. So this happens to me pretty often now and it's something that I've just gotten used to. When you get it in a good groove and it's just going every 5 minutes, that, you know, hasn't happened to me in a week and a half, but when it does happen, it is kind of annoying, right? It took me like 2 minutes or 3 minutes there to get it working again, but now we're back into the controls and you can see that if I click on sats per dollar, it's gonna switch. If I click on halving expected, it's gonna switch, and every default 5 minutes, it's going to cycle through whatever this list I have over on the right here. You can change the background color from black to white. You can hide label text at the top, so you can see the label text here would be upcoming halving expected, and if I hit hide here, it's just gonna reload and hide that text. I'm gonna fix it to show, because I like to see that, to understand what the data is that I'm looking at. You can change the color of the flashing lights. You can change it to orange or green or white or red. I'm gonna leave it off, and then you can change the brightness of the lights. So if you made it 5%, and we just did an orange real quick, you'd see that it's not as pronounced as if you had it at 100%. I like to leave this off because if that was happening every 5 minutes, I would never be able to work. You can change the animation speed from medium to slow to fast. I like medium here. I think fast is, you know, not that interesting, and then slow is way too slow. So I'm gonna change that back to medium. You can do your AM, PM, or you can do 24-hour style for the time, and then you can do commas or periods for the price. And so now if we get in here and just start to look at some price charts, look at USD first. And so this stuff over on the right is stuff that's loaded onto your block clock, but then values that are over on the left is stuff that maybe you might want to put into your rotation. So let's say we wanted to just add the Coinbase spot price in US dollars to our rotation. If we just click on it, we're going to get the preview of what it looks like here. And now if we hit add, it'll come to the top, and then you can move it through your cycle. I sort of took price off of my block clock because it's annoying for me to look at every day. You can see we're actually at a really high price at the filming of this video. But I found that if I'm looking at the price every 5 minutes or in some sort of like hourly schedule or something, it is not good for my mental health. So I tried to look at other things like the sats per dollar, or the number of Bitcoin reachable nodes, or the number of transactions in the mempool, or when the halving is going to happen, or here's a static sell USD buy Bitcoin sort of graphic. And you can see the clock catching up in real time as I click through these things. And so if you want to see some other ones, we can go into maybe date time here, and you can see when was Bitcoin created, January 3rd, 2009. If we go into blockchain, we can see the UTXO set size. We can see the percent issuance of Bitcoin, right? So it's almost 90% issued. If we go into static, we can see some, you know, sell Hong Kong dollar, buy Bitcoin. We can see all the Bs, which I think was on it out of the box maybe. But if we just add one of these, then it will show up on our clock. This is sort of the main display control panel. I don't really ever go anywhere else, but there are some preferences here at the top. You could set a password to block other people from editing your block clock. They are going to be able to edit your block clock if they just go to this address while they're on your Wi-Fi that you've connected to the block clock in the Wi-Fi tab. You can update your time zone to your browser value or to whatever your time zone is. You can set a name here, and then you can actually provide backend data feeds for the block clock to look at. And then then here are some OpenDime and ColdCard sort of transaction settings that you could take advantage of. Even just based on the demo that we just did right now, where I've had to unplug and plug back in the block clock 3 times, and you get those errors that are really annoying. I haven't figured out how to fix them other than plugging it in and unplugging it again. I would be very suspicious, and I might look into this over time, but if this is something that you just want to work right away, I think it might be complicated unless you really know what you're doing to feed different data backends into this external URL section. And then finally up here, there's this firmware tab where you can basically upload new firmware to your block clock. Best case scenario, you can just hit this get latest button and it will work, but I actually had to go to their website and then upload the file myself to get onto the latest firmware. Finally up here, link to some documentation, and then also a link to CoinKite's website. Something else that is really cool here is in the documentation, there is a documentation for the push API. I will definitely look into this at some point, but again, if you think that this is just going to be some super easy thing that works right away, I have had tons of technical trouble with this, and unplugging it and plugging it back in has been my first solution that works most of the time. But there have been times where the cycle isn't really churning the way that you would expect it to based on what I've loaded into the display over here. I have once had to completely wipe the block clock just by using the erase all data feature over here on the right. When you click on these buttons, there's a network setup and then wipe all settings right here is the third button. I'm not going to click that, but I have had to do that in the past. And so then basically all you have to do is reconnect to that original Wi-Fi address that's on the block clock, set up your own local Wi-Fi address again, and then go through these steps. Once you get here, this is basically it, right? And you can send these things up and down, and you can add or remove them. I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to remove the spot price because it's making me crazy. So if you guys do have any technical problems setting up the block clock, I know I have had a bunch, so leave questions for sure down in the comments and I'll do my best to help you out. Unfortunately, I'd say most of my success has come from plugging it in and unplugging it and then resetting up the whole thing, which is super annoying. I haven't had to really do that much, and when I did do that, it actually totally fixed my problem. And then also thirdly, just making sure that you're on the newest firmware. So I would say first thing you should do is definitely update to the newest firmware just by clicking this button or by going to CoinKite's website and then uploading their file here. But for now, let's talk about some of the other things that you can do with the block clock, and then I'll give you a recommendation about whether or not you should be buying one for yourself. So on the note of some of the very technical things that the block clock can actually do, first of all, you can sign Bitcoin transactions using the block clock, and either the ColdCard or the OpenDime, which both are hardware wallets that CoinKite also manufactures. The other very cool, very customizable feature of the BLOCKCLOCKmini is that there is an available API that you can use to push whatever data you want. Maybe you could push the number of subscribers of my YouTube channel, or Rhett Reisman is the smartest person on earth, or go like the video, or whatever else. You could push all of that to the BLOCKCLOCKmini theoretically. I haven't done any of this in practice, and I don't really know how easy that is to do. But maybe I will mess around with the API and try some of that stuff. If you guys are interested, go ahead and leave a comment, and maybe I'll do a future video on that a few months from now. But overall, I mainly see this BLOCKCLOCKmini as like a cool piece of Bitcoin art to just have in the background of videos. And I'm not really planning on trying to use OpenDime or ColdCard with my BLOCKCLOCKmini, but if you guys are interested in sort of that interaction and how to make that kind of stuff work, I will leave in the description a really helpful video tutorial that I found on the topic. So definitely check that out down in the description if you are trying to learn more. TLDR, the BLOCKCLOCKmini is very aesthetic. It's very customizable, but you should really know what you're technically getting yourself into when you buy one of these. It's definitely got a lot of user experience quirks and sort of like open source technology vibe technical issues that you probably will have to deal with. So just know that ahead of time if you're not really someone that's comfortable dealing with some of the technical issues that are going to arise from buying a product like this, that this just might not be something that's for you. Or maybe if there's someone technical in your house that can help you, maybe in that case you would still get it if you really like how it looks. Overall, it's a really cool product made by a really great company. I looked all around YouTube and found very little on how to troubleshoot some of the common issues with the BLOCKCLOCKmini. So if you guys found this video helpful, just in those setup tips at least, please go down below and leave the video a like so that the YouTube algorithm will spread this video across YouTube and help some of the other people that are searching for some setup tips when it comes to getting the BLOCKCLOCKmini up and running. And then comment down below if you're having any other issues that I didn't really touch on in this video. I think there are a lot of technical issues that can come from operating one of these things. I'm not affiliated with CoinKite or BLOCKCLOCKmini in any way. I'm just a guy on the internet. And so if you're some programming becoming super genius and you know how to fix all of the issues that come with operating a BLOCKCLOCKmini, please help me go down into the comments and respond to some people that do leave comments wondering how to operate one of these things. Because I think most of my troubleshooting responses are going to be either update the firmware, unplug it and plug it back in, restore it to factory settings, or the very classic, always applicable technical question: have you tried setting it to Wumbo? Subscribe and hit the notification bell for new videos every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern. I love you all. Goodbye.